Okay, today's going to be the new chapter for the continuing series of the Gerald Shea Memorandum, the New Orleans division. Now, there wasn't really much going on here, but there is an interesting side story to this. There is another report called the David Graham report. Dr. David Graham lived in Shreveport, Louisiana, and was a dentist. And basically, he ran into a nefarious businessman named Muhammad Jamal Khan. There's a excellent report called the Dr. David Graham report, which I'm going to link the wiki, I think the 9/11 research wiki part in the description, just so you can read it. There's an interesting. I don't think there's any links to it, not that I've seen or studied in the years prior to it. But there is a connection of Louisiana and 9/11, the hijackers and whatnot. According to Dr. David Graham, he met with or saw some of the 9/11 hijackers like Fayez Bani Hamad, and others as well. But what was interesting to note was that there was a story, Dr. David Graham, in which Muhammad Jamal Khan actually went to his office, and he was speaking with another doctor whose name escapes me at the moment, and they were talking about Osama bin Laden, and this is in the year 2000. So it is interesting. Dr. David Graham, what happened was after the 9/11 attacks, he saw the pictures of the hijackers and basically wrote a report about his instances and meetings and experiences about seeing some of these people along the way, and he passed it on to the FBI. Now, according to the report, basically, Dr. David Graham said that the FBI wasn't very much interested and basically started harassing him. And I think I want to say, I'm not sure about the year in which Dr. David Graham died, but it was like 2004, maybe 2005. Don't quote me on that. And I'll try to find out, when he died, but it wasn't. I think it wasn't that long ago or something like that. And he died September 2006. I cheated. I looked. So in December 2006, he was found dead. And it was a mysterious circumstance. His family said that he wasn't suicidal. He was depressed a little bit, but he wasn't suicidal. So this mysterious around his death his circumstance around his death is very mysterious. Now, not to lose track on the New Orleans division. Now, what's interesting about this, and we're going to read this in a bit, is that there was a number of instances that were happening in a separate state in Arkansas, in which the members of the Arkansas division contacted members of the New Orleans division about Israeli nationals visiting the National Guard, for example, in Arkansas and Alabama as well. And as you can see here, there was a couple of instances that I've spoke about before. But what the FBI did in Alabama and Arkansas basically was they went to New Orleans and interviewed people there. And these two guys were, during the period of February 16th to February 23rd, 2001, Group Supervisor James E. Miles Jr. and Security Specialist Alan Davis had met with members of the federal law enforcement community in the metropolitan area of New Orleans, Louisiana, to discuss matters regarding the above captioned subject regarding the Alabama, Arkansas. I've already read those, right? So we don't have to go through that again. But what they did was, these two guys are smart, Davis and Miles. What they did was, hey, listen, let's see our neighbor in New Orleans. Let's see if the officers over there had any instances of this strange circumstances of Israeli art students. And what do you know? Because what they're going to relate to them was very interesting. Now, unlike the other art student rings in the other cities, in Louisiana, it focused on just the judicial system. I'm going to read what judges were visited, and the FBI, not the DA here. So on Friday, February 16, 2001, SS Alan Davis and GS James E. Miles met with United States Secret Special Agent in charge, Michael James, and Assistant Special Agent in charge, Ken Tate, in New Orleans, Louisiana. Special Agent in charge stated that in December 2000, around Christmas time, two young Israeli students visited his residence with artwork. Special agent in charge James further recounted that approximately 2 weeks prior to his personal encounter with the Israeli students, two other young Israeli students attempting to sell artwork to his spouse at their residence. Neither special agent in charge James nor his spouse purchased artwork from the students. Finally, special agent in charge James disclosed that his office was in receipt of a counterterrorism advisory report regarding suspicious activities around federal buildings that related to Israeli students. Special agent in charge James provided SS Davis with a copy of the report. The Federal Bureau of Investigation in New Orleans, Louisiana, that I spoke about. On Tuesday morning, February 20, 2001, SS Davis and GS Miles interviewed Federal Bureau of Investigation Special Agent Gary McDaniel in his office. Special Agent McDaniel is the designated security officer for the FBI office, which is located at 2901 Leon Simon Boulevard in New Orleans, Louisiana. Special Agent McDaniel stated that he was unaware of any incidents involving Israeli students. Special Agent McDaniel assured Davis that he would canvass his office regarding the Israeli incidents and contact SS Davis if any significant information was discovered. Later the same evening, Special Agent McDaniel reported to SS Davis that no Israeli students had approached FBI employees at the office of or their residences. Special Agent McDaniel queried his perimeter security officers to determine if they had been approached by anyone attempting to sell artwork with negative results. However, on Wednesday, February 21st, 2001, Special Agent McDaniel contacted Davis and reported that the FBI had information that an Israeli student attempted to sell artwork to U.S. Federal Magistrate Dosia Dalby and U.S. District Judge James Brady at their residences in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Special Agent McDaniel did not know if either Magistrate Dalby or Judge Brady purchased any of the artwork. Now, here's the question, right? How, if we're to speculate that they knew where these judges lived, how, first of all, how did they know this information? Two, why the judges? Why magistrate judges? Is it so that they can have the listening devices in the artwork? Now, of course, that's speculation too. I don't know if there are, but if it was just artwork, look, if it was just artwork, why are they lying about this? Is it because they don't want to get caught? Is it because, you know, what they're doing because they can get deported because they're not allowed to sell art because it's considered work employment because they're they're students? Could be. I mean, that's a great cover, right? If we're to be playing, you know, the espionage role, right? Be smart about it. Before the operation even began, go into the United States. I want you to spy, but I want you to do it under the employment of selling artwork. Why? Because you can hide listening devices in artwork, right? Because the artwork will be either in the offices of the buildings that we want to listen information to or personal conversations in the homes of these people that they wouldn't say at work. They drive around in vans and cars that they lie about because they don't want them to be discovered. A lot of these Israeli students basically lied about their supervisors' names, where they were, who they were, what car they drove. Why? Because if they're driving in vans, which they were in these or cars, they could drive around the neighborhoods or park and listen to wherever they sold the artwork to if there's listening devices in the artwork. Don't go to rush to judgment. This is why I created, you know, viral media to begin with, to teach responsibly. I want you to use your critical thinking skills here, okay? And be nonpartisan. Don't be anti-Israeli, anti-Muslim, you know, because you're only going to look at information that acquiesces to those worldviews. I want you to look at this like a crime, as a crime scene, and to investigate responsibly. It's the only way we're going to get ahead. Only way. That's why all these 9/11 truthers, the fringe conspiracy theorists, they don't do this. And they never will, is because they've already made their mind made up. Israel did 9/11. The CIA did 9/11. The federal government's involved with 9/11. You know, they only look at information that acquiesces to the worldview, even false information. I don't want you to do that. If these guys were just selling artwork and they just, you know, didn't want to get caught because they would, you know, it would violate the INS laws and they would get deported, fine. Then that's it. right? And that's it. That's the end of this chapter. But something tells me that's not it. They're going to specific areas and they lied about it. They live in nearby neighborhoods to the 9/11 hijackers in Florida. They're in specific areas of the Southwest and Northeast. If you were to monitor Al Qaeda inside the United States about attacks on the United States in which you're going to capitalize on and benefit from, wouldn't you like to get information regarding about the operation to make sure it's successful? That's what all intelligence is about, collecting data before the incident happens. That's power. You can manipulate an operation to ensure that it goes through. You can manipulate people in the operation where you have a double cross, a triple cross, so even. U.S. Marshal Services in New Orleans, Louisiana. On Tuesday afternoon, February 20, 2001, G.S. Miles and S.S. Davis interviewed U.S. Deputy Marshal Bernie Deschamps at his office in the Hale Boggs Federal Building at 500 Camp Street in New Orleans, Louisiana. Deputy Deschamps reported that he learned about an incident that involved males who identified themselves only as Israeli students while trying to enter the DEA and FBI buildings in Houston, Texas, attempting to sell paintings of building occupants. We read about this in the Houston division. Deputy Deschamps further reported that an alert regarding the Israeli student in Houston, Texas, became official when he received a security advisory notice regarding suspicious activities around federal buildings from acting U.S. Deputy Director Louis McKinney. Deputy Deschamps stated that on February 13, 2001, days after receiving the security advisory notice, he received a telephone call from the United States Coast Guard office, which is also located in the Hale Boggs Federal Building on the 13th floor, and was advised that an unknown male in room 1341 showing artwork to employees. According to Deputy Deschamps, the unknown male was identified as David DeRoer. We spoke about him, right? And this information was handed over to Davis, a copy of US. So we read about, the whole DeRoer thing. On February 20, 2001, SS Davis G.S. Miles met with U.S. Federal Protective Service Supervisor Lieutenant Herbert Patterson at his office in the aforementioned Hale Boggs Federal Building. Lieutenant Patterson stated that his office did receive a general alert notice from the FPS headquarters office in Fort Worth, Texas, regarding suspicious activities around federal buildings. No specific details regarding Israeli students were mentioned in the advisory. Lieutenant Patterson canvassed his office regarding suspicious activities around the Hale Boggs Federal Building and received negative responses. Lieutenant Patterson assured Davis and Miles that he would contact them at the DEA New Orleans Divisional Office if any information was obtained regarding Israeli students. So they didn't really much infiltrate the FBI and the DEA here. It was basically judges so far, magistrate judges, and the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force. Not so much the FBI Laboratory Division or the Science Division, as they're called, or the DEA. On March 21st, 2001, the DEA Little Rock, Arkansas resident office reported that an IRS special agent assigned to Little Rock was visiting at his home on the night of March 20, 2001 by an unidentified male as Idan Unakovsky, right? Identification was made via an Israeli passport number not obtained. Unakovsky stated he was part of a group of 8 Israeli art students who were attending the University of Jerusalem. They had been in Memphis, Tennessee, and Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He had identified their team leader as Sharon Ratzadi. Now, when I ran the names of Unakovsky and Ratzadi, I got nothing. That doesn't mean they don't exist. It's just that there's no profiles for these people. After the IR in the United States, right? And they're not on LinkedIn, nothing, not like the others where I showed you there was there's profiles. After the IRS special agent identified to Unakovsky as a federal agent, Unakovsky asked if he could take a picture of himself with the agent to show his friends that he met with a U.S. federal agent. The IRS agent refused and sent him on his way to the New York Division. On September 24th, 1999, a senior investigator of Task Force Group TI-1, 2 suspicious Israeli nationals parked outside the New York Divisional Office in a white Chevrolet van. 2 suspects were identified as Yamiv Shem Tov and Sahalev Dor, in which Nadas and the NCIC checks were negative. Now, this is something. Now, it seems to me this is a separate issue. Maybe. Because when I ran the names of Yamiv Shabtab, I got 2 profiles, but they were too young. When I got Sahalev Dorf, I got nothing. Are they fake names? Could be. But September 24th, 1999 is the earliest time frame now recorded of Israeli spies inside the United States. Now, were they spies? We don't know. Were they part of the art student team? We don't know, because their backgrounds came back negative. But I find that interesting that the New York Divisional Office had 2 suspicious Israelis. Now, I don't know what that means, 2 suspicious Israeli nationals parked outside the New York Divisional Office. Were they parked outside to see what they were up to? Was this the very first instance of the now infamous art student ring? Because from my own investigation, the art student ring was 2000, 2001, late 2000 and early 2001. This is September 24th, 1999. Is this the practice run to the Israeli, or were Israeli spies already here? Interesting. And why the New York office? So much here, there's nothing else after this, because that's it. But I think that's interesting to note. I don't know who they are, and their names come up negative on the search engines. Not surprising. Okay, so that's the end of the New Orleans division. Not much going on, but it is interesting to note that there may be or may not be a connection to the Dr. David Graham report, which I'm going to provide in the description anyway for you to read. And it is an interesting report. Dr. David Graham, died under mysterious circumstances after visiting and commiserating with a known felon, a Pakistani businessman named Muhammad Jamal Khan. Just remember that there were other Pakistan businessmen like R.G. Abbas, who wanted to buy weapons and made a remark to a FBI informant about see the World Trade Center, those buildings are coming down. And that was in the year 2001, early 2001, when the FBI informant, I forgot his name, Randy something. Damn it. I forgot his name. Forgive me. But hey, there's more questions than answers. And what we're trying to do here on my channel is to provide some answers to some of those questions and provide information that you may not have come across. And that's what it's about, doing things responsibly and doing things the right way in terms of investigating 9/11 as a crime, because it is a crime. And was it investigated properly? Not really. The 9/11 Commission report isn't a lie, a total lie. I always consider the report as an incomplete one, because a lot of the information that we're talking about here in this report, as well as the Joint Terrorism Task Force, as Able Danger, the Israeli art students, the NSA listening to the phone calls in Yemen and listening to the phone calls of bin Laden in the early 90s, none of that's in the report. So how is it false? It's an incomplete report. So that means that we need a new investigation. In order for that to happen, we need more people, more responsible people interested in pressuring the U.S. government in creating a new commission. Now we have new information at our hands. So, all right, guys, that's the end of this video. Of course, we'll continue this series because we still got a couple more cities to complete about this chapter. And see you in the next video.